Hello and welcome to Podcast.init, the podcast about Python and the people who make it great. I would like to thank everyone who has donated to the show. Your contributions help us make the show sustainable. For details on how to support the show, you can visit our site at pythonpodcast.com. Linode is sponsoring us this week. Check them out at linode.com/podcastinit and get a $20 credit to try out their fast and reliable Linux virtual servers for your next project. We're also sponsored by Rollbar this week. Rollbar is a service for tracking and aggregating your application errors so that you can find and fix the bugs in your application before your users notice they exist. Use the link rollbar.com/podcastinit to get 90 days and 300,000 errors tracked for free on their Bootstrap plan. You can visit our site to subscribe to our show, sign up for our newsletter, read the show notes, and get in touch. And to help other people find the show, you can leave a review on iTunes or Google Play Music, and also tell your friends and coworkers. You can also join our community by visiting our Discourse forum at discourse.pythonpodcast.com for your opportunity to find out about upcoming guests, suggest questions, and propose show ideas. Your host, as usual, is Tobias Macey, and today I'm interviewing Alex Clark about the Pillow project. So, Alex, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Alex Clark, author of the Pillow fork of the Python Imaging Library. I'm also a Python web developer, system administrator, and a few other things.
And how did you get introduced to Python?
In the early 2000s, I was working at the National Institutes of Health in Bethesda, Maryland, USA, as a system administrator, and my group needed a website. A neighboring group was using Plone, and I decided to copy their approach. Plone is written in Python and built on top of Zope technologies written in Python and C. And to customize Plone, you had to know a little Python, so that was my introduction.
Yeah, I think that was actually the first time I ever really used Python 2 was trying to upgrade a Plone installation by about 2 or 3 major versions.
Yeah, lots of fun. That's one of my favorite things to do, even still, is to upgrade old versions of Plone.
So, what were you working on that led you to forking the Python Image Library?
Well, by the mid-2000s, I had quit my sysadmin job at NIH to do Plone consulting full-time. And in 2010, I was doing Django consulting at National Geographic in D.C. And I came in to work the next day, and I said to a guy named Rich Leland, who I was working with, I said, I forked Pill last night, and his reaction was basically yawn because no one knew what it would become, including me. And I created the fork because I was annoyed that I couldn't install Pill from PyPy. And the Pill package on PyPy was hosted offsite, and it also had some flaws that no one was able to get incorporated into Pill, and so you started to see all these forks all over the place, not on PyPy, and that just annoyed me. So that's what led to me taking one of these existing forks created by a Plone guy named Hanno Schlichting and put that into a GitHub repository and released to PyPy, and that was it.
You were mentioning one of the issues being that you were having trouble getting it installed from PyPI, and I know that at least in some portions of its history, the Python Image Library has been somewhat difficult to install because of its heavy use of C extensions and additional libraries for being able to support things like JPEGs and PNGs. So has that story gotten better as you have progressed the Pillow fork forward?
I think a little bit. I mean, there's certainly been backlash against non-PyPI hosted projects, and so as a packaging fork, we were free to fix a lot of things that caused those problems. Unlike with Pill, where fixes weren't incorporated as rapidly, we could take a fix from someone and release it to the packaging index almost immediately once we had that fork. Once we started it, the ball started rolling quickly.
So what does the original author of PIL, Frederick Lund, think of the Pillow fork?
My favorite story about Friedrich is his comment on a mailing list, on the ImageSig mailing list, where he said something to the effect of, a lot of people complain, at least someone's doing something about it. And you can look at ImageSig around August 2010 for the full story there. And so basically he just, I guess, begrudgingly acknowledged that someone had done something more than just attacking him or just complaining, I guess.
So when you first forked the image library project, did you think that you would still be maintaining and updating that fork by now?
No, not at all. I just knew my Plone installations were going to be awesome. And when Pillow caught on, I was happy others found it useful. Nowadays, most of the day-to-day operations are done by the team, which is, a handful of people, and also the global community. And I pop in about once per quarter to make sure releases go according to plan and to sort of clean up and prune repositories and issues. And I recently registered the domain pythonpillow.org so we could receive security-related emails, which we're starting to get now.
And you mentioned some of the other members of the team. Are there any particular people you'd like to call out and maybe share how they got involved in the project?
Absolutely. There's someone I call Pillow Man number 2, and that's Eric Sorus. He goes by Wired Fool, and he does a lot of the C programming that no one else is willing to do. And he has surpassed me now in commits to Pillow. Let's see. I'm going to call people out by their GitHub username and possibly their real name, depending on whether or not it looks like that's public information.
Okay.
Let's see. And Eric is the guy who would take over if I were hit by a bus. So I was really happy when he came along and he just started doing C programming. And beyond that, we have, 3 other guys. I think that they're not publicly members of the organization, but you can see in the repository their commits, and that is Homm, Homm, that's Alexander Karpinski, Hugo VK, who is Hugo, Radar here, who is Andrew Murray. And so that's what I call the Pillow team. And Hugo is, I think, most active after Wired Fool, and then followed by Andrew Murray, Radar here. And Homm was making some interesting commits at one point, and so we added him to the team. And so it's really cool to have all these guys just, working on this day to day. I sort of drop off and then I check in, like I said, once a quarter, and everyone is still doing Pillow development, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I imagine that given the low-level nature of a lot of the code and working in C and having to have at least decent knowledge of image manipulation and image formats, it must be somewhat difficult to attract contributors.
Absolutely. I did C in college in the 90s, and, if I had to do it now, we'd probably be in big trouble. I sort of feel like if something has to be done, someone somewhere will do it. And since big Linux distributions are using Pillow and big companies like Atlassian, someone will do something if it's absolutely needed, but having someone who actually likes to do it is better, obviously.
And touching on that a bit more, what kinds of special knowledge or experience have you found to be necessary for being able to understand and extend the routines and functionality of the library and adding new capabilities?
I think the biggest is C and C extensions, which I think are a dist-utils thing. So there's about 30,000 lines of C code, and looking at the setup pie and seeing how the package is built and how the C code is exposed to Python routines is probably the most different thing about Pill and Pillow versus, pure Python packages and libraries.
And so we've gotten this far into the conversation without really going deep on what the Python Image Library and Pillow are and what kinds of use cases they support and sort of the feature set. So if you could dig into that a bit for me, that would be great.
Absolutely. Pill allows Python programmers to perform complex image manipulation operations without having to know the details and algorithms involved in performing such operations. So, for example, basic image manipulation like cropping, resizing, rotating, changing formats, and also things like viewing or extracting metadata like EXIF data, splitting the image into respective bands, red, green, and blue, applying filters, that sort of thing. And so as a Python web developer, I use Pillow to manipulate images in web applications. In some cases, the manipulation is seamless, like with Plone. Plone uses Pillow to enable content editors to manipulate images on their website. In other cases, I write the Pillow code to do some manipulation that's needed for my app. But there's probably many, many more use cases.
How does Pillow compare to other libraries with similar purpose and use case, such as ImageMagick?
When I think of ImageMagick, I think of command line tools for image manipulation, which Pillow definitely is not. I think ImageMagick's a little heavier. Pillow really is for basic image manipulation. And also, I think if the standard library had an imaging set of tools, it would be something like Pillow.
And are there any other libraries that build on top of Pillow that are a little bit more high level for maybe simplifying some of the operations that are common to certain use cases?
That's a good question. I haven't seen such a thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if it existed.
And I have seen Pillow used in some computer vision contexts. I'm wondering, what are the capabilities of the library that lend themselves to that particular use case?
I think basic, as much as computer vision involves basic image processing, Pill can help with, cropping, resizing, rotating, changing formats. Beyond that, you'll probably need more powerful tools like Matplotlib, OpenCV, and so on.
Yeah, there's a project called SimpleCV that I've used at one point a while back that wraps some of the PIL capabilities as well as OpenCV and I think a couple other things to give a much more high-level computer vision toolkit for being able to do some common operations like doing facial detection using HAR classifiers and things like that, and also some manipulation of the images for being able to make it easier to run training algorithms on them.
Yeah, I came across that when I was researching today, but I haven't tried it. It looks fairly interesting.
So what are some of the architectural patterns in Pillow that are used to make image operations fast and flexible? And have you found the need to do any significant refactorings of the original code to make it compatible with modern uses and execution environments?
As far as making operations fast and flexible, probably C code is what is responsible for that. And the biggest refactor was probably adding Python 3 compatibility, which is when we really started to make a bunch of changes. Before that, it was mostly a packaging fork.
And in the process of making that compatibility jump, were there a large number of pieces of the code that needed to be modified, or was it just a few points where it ties into the Python runtime?
There was a guy that came along and contributed a pull request that added the bulk of the Python 3 compatibility. And beyond that, it was just a matter of cleaning up what was left. But I think he did a good bit of work on a lot of the code to support 3.2 at the time.
And as you have worked with and maintained the project, have you been keeping up to date with some of the newer image formats that have been coming out, such as WebP? And are there any image formats that Pillow does not support that you'd like to see added to the project?
I think since the fork, we've added WebP and JPEG 2000, and I went back to NIH in 2013, so I'd definitely like to see some medical image formats supported, like DICOM or Nifty.
In, I think it was the last interview that I did, one of the things that they called out was they were trying to do some GIF manipulation, or GIF, however you want to pronounce it, and mentioned that they didn't see that in Pillow. So do you have any plans or intention of adding that to the project, or would that just be something that's too far outside of the use case, particularly given some of the animation support that GIFs have?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's Pill's thing. I guess like anything else, if someone wants it bad enough, they'll contribute. And as far as me personally wanting it, no, it hasn't been on my radar.
So what are some of the most interesting or innovative uses of Pill and Pillow that you've seen?
There was a guy Jeremy Kuhn did a blog entry in 2012, I think it was, called Random Psychedelic Art with Pill, which has always stuck with me, and it's on the Pillow website. Created all kinds of cool images, random images with Pill and NumPy, I think.
And are there any plans or roadmaps that you have for the project going forward?
I think just making sure we always do quarterly releases, which has worked out really well. Any security fixes that come along, possibly some code cleanup. Always love to see new features and image formats supported. The documentation's in really good shape now, I think, but more documentation improvements, and also growing the community. I just saw a blog entry about ZCH Z-Shell, and their GitHub likes or stars is like 30K, which is impressive. 30,000 people loving a repository about customizing your shell is very impressive. So I'd love to see Pillow grow to, get the community to grow to get Pillow to be better software for the foreseeable future.
So are there any other topics that you would like to talk about, or any other questions that I didn't ask that you think I should have?
No, I just really appreciate you reaching out, and hopefully people will learn more about the project and help make it better.
Great, absolutely. So for anybody who wants to keep in touch with you and follow what you're up to, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Let's see. aclark.net, aclark.net is my business website, so that's a good way. I have a Twitter, although I haven't been Twittering much lately. But from aclark.net, you can get to a lot of places about me.
Okay. All right. So with that, we will move on into the picks. For my first pick today, I'm going to choose a website called The Minimalist Baker. So it's a recipe website with a lot of really great recipes, particularly for people on restrictive diets. So a lot of the recipes on there are for vegetarian or gluten-free or vegan recipes. A lot of really good and innovative foods on there that, even despite having a restricted set of foods that you can choose from, they still end up coming out quite tasty. And my next pick is going to be the bisect module from the Python standard library. I was doing some work recently where I needed to index into a list based on whether a number was within a certain range, in between a certain range of numbers from another list. And in searching for the best approach for doing that, I came across the bisect module, which was absolutely perfect for my needs. So you have a list of numbers. So you say you need to find out, which quarter a number is in. So if it's between 0 and 25, 25 and 50, 50 and 75, etc., you have a list with those integers in it. You use the bisect module to pass in the list and your integer, and then it will give you the index of where that number falls in another list that's one element longer. So,
wow, very cool.
Yeah, it was really useful and absolutely perfect for my use case. So figured it's one that's pretty invisible until you need it. So I might as well try and raise its visibility a little bit more in case people are in a similar situation. And with that, I will pass it on to you. What do you have, Alex?
All right, great. I'm a musician, so I have a tune that my wife and I got into recently by a band that I have not paid attention to at all, but seem really cool. And that is Muse. They have a song called Uprising, which you should check out. I like bands like Nirvana and Catherine Wheel, but these aren't my picks. And for my second pick, since you mentioned Python libraries, I'm going to say I came across something yesterday called fan static, which seems like a really bad idea. It was storing static CSS, I guess, and JavaScript resources in Python, but somehow I find compelling. I think I've came across it once, but didn't pay any attention to it. But recently have been doing some Django with React, and for some reason fan static came across my radar, and I just thought this was the coolest thing ever, but it's probably not. But it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to take a look at that. All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us and tell us more about your work with the Python Image Library and Pillow, and we look forward to seeing it continue on into the future. So thank you very much for your work and for your time.
No problem. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.